Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is In A Barbie World.
The podcast where we look at every Barbie movie from 1987 to the present day.
From fairy tales to literary classics.
From Mariposa to Mermaidia.
It's time to get unboxed.
Readjust your lippy.
Rock the ball gown.
And let's get our Barbie on.
Barbie as the princess and the pauper. Barbie is doing like a... can't think of an example, but like a playing two characters here in this movie.
She is. She's going full Prisoner of Zenda, full Man in the Iron Mask, full The Parent Trap.
There you go. Hundreds of examples.
It's a really common trope. I hadn't really thought about it much, but this is it's quite a common thing in movies, isn't it? For twins, or Mary-Kate and the other Olsen, or people. Ashley, that's the one. Well, they're not even the most important Olsen anymore, are they? That's the irony. But it's quite a common thing for twins or split screen technology to be used to tell a story of someone from a different side of the tracks that happens to look just like you. And it's Barbie's turn. In fact,
it is Barbie's turn.
Or her first go at it, as I understand it.
Yes. In this adaptation of Mark Twain's famous literary classic, The Prince and the Pauper, which I don't really know the story of, to be honest, so I cannot pull this up for accuracy. I have a feeling that it's not close to the source material, just because of certain things that happen.
So he wrote it whilst writing Huckleberry Finn.
Okay.
I think that's right. I did a little bit of reading a couple of days ago. But it's a children's book, in effect. Set in Tudor times. So basically the story of Henry VIII's son, sickly young son Edward.
Edward VII.
Who became king at 15, I believe. I know this because I did A-level history and I did the Tudors and Stuarts, and none of this happened. But yes, it's a story about poverty and the have.
I had no idea it was actually about a historical king. I thought it was always like a fictitious king.
No, it's historical fiction. Now, a lot of the remakes, the reimaginings don't take that into account. I think he was originally going to set it in Victorian times, but decided to put it into Tudor times, and so it's kind of interesting. Mark Twain's one of those authors that I don't think over here in England we're that aware of.
No, I don't really. I can't really tell you about Huck Finn other than that I think Elijah Wood played him once when he was a baby.
Yeah,
pre Lord of the Rings.
I remember a Tom Sawyer TV series we used to have pumped out to us in the 80s, 90s, which was probably made in the 70s. I remember New York spaceman and a Connecticut spaceman in King Arthur's Court or something like that. Some dreadfully titled movie that used to be on a lot. But I think he's a bit like There's a couple of like Walt Whitman, to Americans, incredibly important poet. Over here we have,
Breaking Bad reference.
Dude, we've got Shakespeare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shut the fuck up, we got Shakespeare.
But I think so. I think it's probably. I don't know if it's an original thought by Mark Twain, but it's probably Mark Twain's most well-known story, even if we don't know the story, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And of course I was thinking of it from toys point of view, because I like to get into the head of Mattel, and actually there's a bit of genius going on here, because not only now is it used to have more than one Barbie to buy, but of course lots of young girls and maybe young boys have more than one Barbie.
Yeah,
it's such an easy present to buy. As an uncle, I'm pretty certain I've bought my niece and my children multiple Barbies. Yeah. And if they are a bit literal, they won't know what to do with them. Now there's a story they can play where they can have Barbie talking to Barbie and not have to pretend they're all twin sisters. So, good call, Mattel.
And the slight difference in like hair and skin tone and dress, obviously one being pink, one being blue. Genius, because then you can have the accompanying everything for both sets. For both, each Barbie needs her own cat and her own horse and her own carriage and her own ball gown and her own peasant dress and her own hairbrush and all of these things. And then, of course, to go with the story, they can, in theory, be interchangeable as well, which works really well. So very interesting. I was pumped to see this one because it has such a big following. It seems to be really well beloved by the sort of fandom of the Barbie universe, as it were. A lot of cosplayers keep whacking these clothes out. It seems to be really popular, and oh boy, it did not disappoint.
Yeah,
why did nobody tell me? This is a musical. It's a musical. It has original songs in it. It's so good.
Well,
it's so good. Not
of
to
course,
get all my feelings out at the beginning.
The first film was also a musical. That's Barbie and the Rockstar.
I guess.
No, I get it. No, this is the first of CGI to be a musical. It's the first CGI not to live in some fantasy land, although there are talking animals, which I was a bit disappointed about. But
they only talk to each other. It's like Babe. Babe never chats to Farmer Hoggett. He only chats to the farm animals.
That's very true. But yes, it is, and it's a proper musical with.
It's a proper musical
with songs. Now, I think I'm on enough record on other podcasts to everyone to know I freaking hate musicals.
How can you?
This was going to be a challenge.
Did you know going in?
Oh yeah, I knew.
I didn't know. I had no idea that this was a musical.
Yeah,
and just as I pressed play and the music started, I glanced at the DVD cover and it was like, see Barbie in her first full-length musical. And I was like... and it was just majestic the whole way through. Like,
I was thinking of you was watching it thinking... Emily's gonna like this because there's people singing in a musical style. So yeah, so it's quite true. Barbie and the Rockers, Barbie and Sensations was neither feature length nor really a musical. They were just like singing songs, weren't they? They were in
the songs didn't progress the plot. Unlike here, where they give character development, backstory, and exposition and all of these other wonderful things.
Where people sing instead of talk. But
it's so good.
And it's also the longest one. So this is we're now at a full-on 90 minutes as well.
Yeah.
Which I think we were talking about in some previous episodes. That 70, 75 minute is a sweet spot for kids. By adding the songs in, I think that adds an extra 10 minutes because some of these... You're right. I was being facetious when I said you singing instead of talking, because you do things that you might have said in one sentence that you stretch out to be a 2-minute song.
But you learn more.
For the length. You do. It's and you know I'm going to say it here first. It's absolutely charming. The songs are inoffensive. I'm not saying I'm humming them around that. I don't find them to be...
No, they weren't particularly memorable, but I think they're memorable in the sense that I might, when I'm drunk, be like, oh, what was that one that she sang to a cat, and get it up on YouTube and have a listen to it again. Oh my god, I've just remembered. Oh, I'm so fucking excited to talk about this movie. It's so good. It really lives up to the hype. I would argue it goes beyond the hype because I didn't know much about it at all going in. I mean, it starts with fucking backstory. I was like, holy shit, like... This is a movie. Did this have a cinematic release? It deserves one. That's how you're going to get the people back into cinemas. Also going forward, as cinemas reopen across the UK, I would like to start a petition that before every screening we have like the Barbie DVD menu where Barbie is like, are you ready to watch No Time to Die? Enjoy the movie. Are you ready to watch Black Widow? Enjoy the movie. Like, I just want that for everything.
Oh, especially like when I said about the Rapunzel one, where she gives you snark for choosing the modern outfit. Yeah. Oh, you want to watch No Time to Die, do you? Oh well. Yeah, give you snark. No, that would be
my God.
Marvelous.
I want it.
Oh, yeah, so they open up, as you say, with some exposition. So, first important thing, Owen has taken the Kelly Shelley frame away with him. New director, new. So
Yes, I didn't
the old.
even
So
remember to miss it.
So yeah, there's some exposition going on that describes what's been going on in this feudal nation, and there's some really nice sort of pseudo watercolor
Mm.
painting stills, so that are used to frame this. And I was a bit like, oh come on, you don't need to tell us all this. Why aren't we doing this in the story? But of course, what it is, it just gets a whole bunch of stuff out of the way that you'd have had to have gone on an exposit for the first 20 minutes of the film, and you get it out of the way in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Those,
exactly.
those of us that know the story of the Prince and the Pauper, we get it.
And
There's a
those that
rich one
don't
and there's a
as
poor one.
well, it was helpful because I never knew. I thought they were like separated at birth or something, but they very explicitly were like, this person was born to these people and this person was born to these people. They are not related in any way. They just look the same.
Yeah, and which is which is probably the only thing that is taken from the Prince and the Pauper novel, as far as I know. Nothing else.
I can
Nothing else is
imagine.
the same from now on. But yes, it was different. It was nice. It was different. It felt like a new order cometh.
Yeah. And I don't know. I really hope that we stick with this sort of thing because it almost felt like it was trying, but it didn't. This is going to do it a disservice. Like it was trying to do a Disney. Like it was a full-length musical based on a literary classic. Blah, 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 blah. Like, you could argue that's very 90s Disney. But here in 2004, but actually it wasn't because Disney have already moved away from that structure and they were doing it even in mid-90s, moving away from it. But Barbie do it so well here, Mattel do it so well, and it really is its own thing. It doesn't feel like I'm watching a Disney movie. It feels like I'm watching a Barbie movie. She's got enough out there now for me to understand what she's coming for. And on top of that, this story is so feminist. Like, it's so good. Like, Barbie is doing shit here that you would never see the Disney princesses do, even in the 90s. Like, it is so modern in some of its storytelling choices. We've got Annalise, who's the princess, and then Erika, who's the pauper. And Annalise is like Elle Woodsing it. She's like super into science. We're not going to get a Disney heroine who's into science until like the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean or like the live action Dumbo movie, like 2017 through to 19. And this is 2004, and our main character is a princess who would rather be reading science books than eating eggs, is what the example that she gave was, which I was a bit like, Annalise, I'm pretty sure you could do what you want. You are a princess, but I feel you. I get what you're saying. So how good is that? How good is that? And she's the blonde one.
And that goes back to this whole Barbie as role model. We were talking about since the first episode. This is not your. I mean, she's woefully ignorant of the life outside the castle, but she knows
Which I
that.
think, yeah, and that's a really funny aspect of this movie. How sort of I don't know enough of the terminology, but it's. We'll get there when they meet, but it's very funny to me how, yeah, the themes of this movie and the sort of awareness that they give to the characters that actually are quite detrimental, rather than just pretending that everything's a lovely fairy tale kingdom. We start to talk about like indentured servitude and stuff, and you're like, Barbie?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. But,
sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just going to say this is not capitalist. This is not a capitalist manifesto. This film, it's got throws huge shade on the feudal system. Has some interesting. An interesting take on how the penning your currency to the gold standard works. It doesn't work like this at all. Do not think you understand economics if you're going to use this film, especially if you're going to pin your currency against geodes. But again, that's a long way down the line yet. But it all kind of plays out for this. So yeah, so it's definitely in the aspirational Barbie world.
Mm.
with
There
some
is some,
dark things here to talk about.
yeah.
Um, and it's a
And
musical.
it's a musical. And from the off, we very early on we learned that Annalise is betrothed to King Dominic of the neighbouring count kingdom, but she's in love with Julian, who is her tutor.
Well, hang on.
And so,
Let's just wind back a bit, right?
oh, sorry.
Basically, Mum, the Queen, who looks like old Barbie,
Yeah.
it's really, really well done. Has pinned the whole country to the gold standard. They've run out of coal in their mine.
Hmm.
Again, not how it works, but doesn't matter. Um, and she's not just betrothed her daughter. She's basically using her as a mechanism for investment into the country. So so
And
so
she's so
King Dominic is
bumbling. She
yeah
keeps
King
losing her glasses.
King Dominic is going to marry Annalise, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um, in return for investing into this small nation state.
which
So
is
and that
mental.
sounds well, that is kind of what happened back in feudal society. You know
Yeah.
that is
Your daughter
daughters
was perfect sort of
currency.
currency, that's the
Yeah,
word.
and many a political you know political deal was struck over a
Union and
marriage.
yeah.
Yeah. So we've got that. So we've got that as well. But yeah, let's just not forget, Mum's mismanaged the whole deal,
Oh God, she's
and she just mentioned she's a
the
widow.
true villain. Yeah.
Well, I don't think she's the true villain. I think she's just a victim of the times.
Which also
Um,
is so good because so often, there's the case for the Disney mom where they don't have them. There's no such thing as the Disney mum for years, and this is so prevalent throughout the 90s. I can think of 3 Disney mums that I'm aware of off the top of my head, and that's where it ends. Because they're all dead. Whereas here it's the dad that's dead, which in Disney you're not going to get until The Princess and the Frog. Spoilers for The
mm,
Princess and the Frog that came out in 2009. But it's so great. So we've got the middle-aged woman running the kingdom poorly, but she is here with her daughter rather than some sort of bumbling buffoon dad, which still exists in the form of King Dominic's dad, but it's just really cool. But just hearing the setup, I instantly, assuming what was going to happen, did what I did in 2013 when I first went to see Frozen, and there was that poster where their 4 heads were in the snow of Kristoff, Hans, Anna, and Elsa. And I was like, oh, so Anna will get with Hans and then Elsa will get with Kristoff because he's really into ice and she's like an ice queen. Because I wasn't ready for sisterly love. I wasn't ready for the subversion of the tropes to be smashed back in my face along with the glass ceiling. I just didn't ever expect it to happen. So I'd made my mind up. But this is what I expected to happen in Frozen. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to get a what would have been Frozen if Frozen wasn't Frozen thing where we're going to like switch partners around and we're all going to like hook up and like that's really cute. I'm down with that. Like I can't wait to see that happen. I'm very excited for it. I assume I didn't think that Annalise and Erika would rule the kingdom together somehow here in 2004. But then again, I wasn't ready for it when Frozen came out either. I was like, they'll all have to end up with men because this is a Disney movie.
and yeah, and it's it is like the Middle Ages.
Mm.
So sometimes
Yeah.
we have to accept. Oh, we don't have to accept anything, but sometimes these things
These things will happen.
these things will happen exactly. So yeah, sorry, I know I pulled you back there. I thought it was very important to note that
No, it was.
that Barbie as chattel was an important thing here,
Because
and
there's so much of that in here that's questionable in that way that you're like, this is for kids and you're making it not for kids. And like they do it, try to where Annalise is very much like, my duty. I need to do my duty to my kingdom. It's a shame, but I'll do it because I must do my duty.
Doody, she said Doody, and of course, Erika, it's the same. Yeah, because she's an indentured student because of her parents' loans to some
To
dressmaker
some
stroke
seamstress.
moneylender woman.
Yeah. You gotta have several jobs here in the kingdom of. Where are we? Where are
I
we?
don't think
Kingdom of.
they
Oh,
ever
in an
say.
unnamed kingdom. Brilliant.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
kingdom of unnamed. They
Um,
didn't get that far.
they didn't get that far, but yes, she's, as you said, indentured slave. Um,
Yeah.
that that's paid off half the loans, but's got another 37 years. Apparently because of interest. Um, which is, very similar. They're basically, the
Dark.
parents have, in order
Fucked
to
him
bring her up,
over.
basically, she's become chattel. She's become the equivalent of money.
Which
So
again
so
is so interesting because you're right, it is technically historically accurate. And what a brilliant foundation to put on these two characters, and then give us reasons as to why we then still root for them and still make them contemporary, and they're not slaves to their era or even their circumstances within the narrative. They're still awesome role models despite all of this, rather than putting them in a fictional kingdom where everything's just sort of okay. Uh, it's so
mm,
good. It's so good. So the first song is called Free, and it's tight harmonies from both Erika and Annalise about how they wish they could escape their sort of humdrum lives to do something else. So Erika wants to be a singer and travel the world, and Annalise wants to just not be a princess, essentially, which is fair enough. It's a very common trope. Princess doesn't want to be a princess. But they're such good distinct characters. Like, they really do a good job of making them different.
not
Um,
and not just by hair color. Like,
yeah,
or
and not boring either. Like,
mm,
Annalise is very restrained because she's been brought up in the palace environment, and that's reflected in her voice, in her mannerisms, whereas Erica's a bit more wild, and it's just really fun, I think, from all aspects, whether you're playing with them as Barbies, whether you're acting them out on the playground, or whether you're just watching them, and there's these good distinctions. Really, really good. As we've come to expect in a Barbie movie, they will always reserve a hefty part of the budget for their villain voice.
the
And
Hollywood star voice.
yeah,
And
we're not
I
disappointed here.
we're not. We get the great Martin Short.
Hell yeah. I
Uh,
was
um,
like, who is that? And I Googled it and I was like, fuck yeah. I
well,
love
one of the
you.
three amigos.
God, what
Yeah,
hasn't he
but
done?
maybe a little past his. I don't expect many many of the audience know who Martin Short is for this film, but
Well,
sort of
he
one of
was in The
those.
Prince of Egypt. That's
Oh,
where I
was he now?
first knew him. Yeah,
Ah,
he's with Steve Martin. They play the two
mm,
priests in The Prince of Egypt. So not only have I heard him before, but I've heard him sing before as an animated character, which is why it was so familiar to me. And
I see.
possibly as a kid, you might pick that up if you're watching. I mean, two very different stories: DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt and Barbie's Princess and the Pauper. Both very dark in different ways, but they don't kill the firstborns of Egypt here in The Princess and the Pauper, so they don't quite go there. But yes, he is wonderful, and I really, really hope this is a trope that doesn't die. I really hope they keep churning out these big named villains, because my god, he is brilliant. He plays Preminger, who is the typically evil advisor, royal advisor to the Queen. He's dressed perfect. He's got this powdered wig and this face that's just villainous. And he sings a wonderful song, which possibly has plagiarism problems, as it sounds very much like Jack's Lament from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ah.
But I'm sure that's not what they were going for.
So this is How Can I Refuse, yes?
Yes, how can I refuse? Because he's been the one stealing all the gold, because that's how the economy works here. They just dig until they run out
So
of
he's got,
gold.
so,
And
so,
then
so
the
we're going to
kingdom
park
collapses.
this. We're going to park this, but Nick and Knack, is that the name of his two little
Nick
mates?
and Knack, yes, like
Yeah.
a
So Nick and
pantomime.
Knack have somehow been able to drain the mines of gold, which leads me to believe there wasn't that much there if two of them could do it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of forgotten about that he's got all the gold.
Yeah.
So his plan is shit, but his plan is to bankrupt the nation. That's his initial plan.
Yeah.
He amends the plan later.
Because he wants to bankrupt the nation and then put
No,
himself forward as a rich person to marry Annalise.
is that what it was? Okay,
Yeah.
and then he
And then
changes
he'll
his mind
become
later.
king. So it's very
Yeah,
Swan Princess meets something
right.
else where someone steals all the money. But yeah, so the original plan, which is quite interesting, because for me, it would have been... yeah, so I think we'll sort of go into it a little bit here, just because initially he's going to drain the mines of gold, keep it for himself to become rich, because I guess that's how it works, and then put himself forward and be like, I'm really rich, just believe me. Like, just believe me that there's nothing left in your minds and I have lots of money. Just believe
All
me.
of a
I have no
sudden,
proof.
I've been here for 10 years.
But they're
It's
not
stated.
related. Those are not related things. So I'm going to marry your daughter, Annalise, which is horrible because, you know, like in Aladdin, when Jafar proposes to Jasmine, Annalise is like 15 and Preminger is like 45 at least, if not older. Which is really gross. But then later on, he amends his plan to marry the Queen instead of Annalise. Now,
due to some botched kidnapping attempts.
Yeah, due to
Well,
some
to be
fuck-ups.
fair, I think his plan. I still don't quite understand his plan, but his plan is screwed up by the fact there is an identical non-fraternal twin.
T-
Fraternal would be brother, wouldn't it?
yeah.
I don't know what the female equivalent is, but yes, but due to some quirk in genetics, possibly
Yeah.
due to this being a very small kingdom and a lot of inbreeding, you know.
Yes, almost
Um,
definitely.
yeah, he amends it to be the Queen, which actually makes a lot more sense and is a lot less, well,
This is the thing. It
less
makes more
less
sense and it's
creepy.
kind
Yeah.
of less creepy, which is why if I had been writing this script, I would have pushed for the original plan to be to marry the Queen, and as all the kidnapping attempts get botched more and more and more, he then pushes to marry the princess in order to then like keep her silent and keep her under his control. It's creepier, it's scarier, there's more stakes for her at the end of the movie. Instead of doing a save my mom thing, it's a save me thing. They both work. I both like them. I don't really have a problem. I just personally would have thought the twist in the change of marriage intention to go to the daughter instead of the mum would have been scarier. And doing it as a thing of like, I cannot control you, I'm gonna marry you, in that sort of like, you know, Babes in Toyland grabbing the wrist down the aisle and keeping her gagged kind of thing. I don't know, like that's what I'm used to in these child bride evil arrangements in my movies from my childhood, because that's the kind of shit that they just gave us all the time back in those days. I don't know if they had a lot of issues to deal with, but now we've got issues because of these movies. But yeah. But I like it, and we'll talk more about the twist in the plan as we get to it. But his How Can I Refuse is marvellous. It's nice, it's fun, it's set in the mind, and this is the thing, we're really feeling this idea of a kingdom and a world again. Like with Swan Lake, we'd really gotten this sense of place and time. It's even more here with The Princess and the Pauper. Like, I know this unnamed kingdom. I know its woods and its back pubs and its mines and its palaces. Like, everything's really thoughtfully drawn out and it's lovely.
It's a well defined world. I agree. Yes.
Hmm. Where is my stage show of Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper? Why is this not on stage? That's just a note that I made near the beginning of the movie. Why hasn't
Al-
it been given a live action musical yet?
Although it has been given a board game and a Game Boy Advance game.
Nice.
So it's this is they're really pushing the whole the whole marketing, and
Mm.
having a computer game of a Barbie. Well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, there were
I would
Barbie
play the
PC
shit
games.
out of that.
There were Barbie PC games before.
Mm-hmm.
That were but there were things like dressing Barbie up, like a bit like the games you get on the DVDs, yeah. Or I remember we
Yeah.
had a show jumping one, but they were
Nice.
very much like playing with the dolls, but on the
Mm.
PC. To actually have a platform game based around a Barbie movie, I think is kind of interesting.
Because it puts
Uh,
these women as active protagonists,
mm,
and you can play as them stealing keys and running away from kidnapping and jumping buildings and things like that. Like, just the thought of a Game Boy game playing as Erika. First of all, take my money. Where is it? Give it to me. Secondly, it's really exciting, and it's active, and you're running around as this cool character in a nice dress doing cool shit, and that's really good.
mm.
Whereas previously we haven't had the option to do that, other than obviously with the dolls themselves. But different medium, different format, different ideas,
And
especially
there
when
was
you start thinking of gender.
quite a lot of that on the Game Boy Advance. I mean, this is a whole different thing that I'm interested in. It was a platform which was not a gender specific thing. And obviously, we obviously
Mm.
think quite often about computer games, especially sort of in up to this point, it's very male dominated. But of course, that's all changing during this period of time. And the Game Boy Advance was one of the things. All the Game Boy series, to be fair, were quite gender neutral. But to see a Barbie game on there, I thought that was quite interesting. It might be something I'll do a bit more digging up about for a
Oh my
future
god.
episode.
Yeah, I'd have killed it. I had my lovely, like, see-through pink Game Boy Advance, and I
Mm,
played Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the animated series, the game. I played Metroid Prime, and I played, like, Tetris. And I think we had a Mary-Kate and Ashley detective game as well.
that sounds
Um,
likely. Yes,
yeah,
of course.
it's great.
Metroid Prime. Samus is a woman, isn't she? Which
Hell yeah.
was one of the great gender reveals of an earlier age.
Oh,
Anyways,
modern
that,
age. But
your
yeah,
point was, why isn't this a stage show? And
yeah.
I do feel of everything that we've seen so far, this is crying out
This
for it,
would
really.
work. Yeah.
We know that it is one of the most beloved films in the franchise. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's been adopted by the lovers of Barbie, of the gay community, of pe-
Understandably so.
people who love musicals. Um, it's got a really good they even did I think they did a CD of some of the music.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting. Um, you wouldn't actually have to have them like Barbies. Um, you could just do a live action thing with this as a story, couldn't you?
In a genius move, both narratively and toyly and just for funly, everyone has an accompanying animal. And in a wonderful twist of what you're used to, the good guys have cats and the bad guy has a dog, which is usually the other way around. Usually the cats are evil.
Oh,
Um,
Blofeld style, yes,
yeah, or
yes.
Cats and Dogs, or Lucifer and Bruno in Cinderella. Like, the cats are always evil. Unless it's like Oliver and Company, but that's a completely different thing. So there's Serafina, who is the very neat and tidy, beautiful white cat that belongs to Annalise. Then there's the wonderful Wolf, who is Erica's cat,
Wolfie,
Wolfie, sorry,
yeah.
who thinks, well, doesn't even think. He is a dog. He's like a cat dog. He's like a cat that like barks and like acts like a dog, and he like talks like a cockney. Whereas Serafina is very posh, and then you got Wolfie, who's sort of from the
Wolfie,
streets.
this is a deep dive and shows to my age, right? So you know Robert Lindsay, the actor, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Robert Lindsay came to true fame in the United Kingdom in a show called Citizen Smith, where he played. It was a sitcom, sort of a half-hour sitcom, BBC sort of thing, where he played like a guy from South London who was a revolutionary called Wolfie Smith. Wolfgang, I guess. And the mum of his girlfriend always said, "Oh, Wolfie," and every time they mention it here, all I thought of this Wolfie was Robert Lindsay's TV mum, saying, "Oh, Wolfie," and I thought, as he was from South London, which is it's not quite, I know Cockney isn't South London, it's East London, but still, I wondered if somebody during the making of this was
Yeah.
was riffing on this
Took
because
inspiration.
there are cats which do bark. Not quite like a dog. I believe. Do not Siamese cats?
Yeah.
Do they not? Do more of a bark than a
Oh, do
purr and a
they?
meow?
Aw.
But not like a dog. Yeah, I don't understand. I did spend a good 15 minutes of this film wondering if Wolfie was a cat that barked like a dog, or a dog that looked like a cat.
Yeah, I thought it was a cat that looked like that barked like a dog because then they both have cats.
Well, it actually it all makes sense much later on. It's all absolutely put to bed.
Literally.
quite literally.
I thought it was wonderful. I loved that there's a cat that barks like a dog. Like, how interesting. They could have easily have just made the two cats, like, one really posh and one really sooty.
Yeah,
whatever.
made it a feline Lady and the Tramp they could have done, couldn't they?
Exactly. But they didn't. They went one step beyond because they care, and thank God they do. And then Preminger has a poodle who, in everything you've ever seen, the poodle will sound incredibly posh, or be voiced by Bette Midler, or will have some sort of French accent. Here, the poodle is from the fucking Bronx. The poodle has like
an
a
Italian
New York
gangster.
accent. It's so good.
I don't know what to make of this. This is the one non sequitur of the film to me. I'll deal with two people looking exactly the same due to his. I'll deal with even the dog cat. This poodle, which isn't terribly well realised by the animation either.
No.
I don't. It's the weakest bit of animation. It talks like a wise guy. You know what I mean?
Serafina, I'm gonna get you. Oh my God,
You're gonna get some
just
concrete boots on if you're not careful. You know.
Sleeping with the fishes, Serafina. Oh my God, it's so good. My notes were just like in caps lock, twice the size of my other notes. It's like, that poodle is from the fucking Bronx, and it's amazing. It really took me by surprise. I felt in a really good way. I was like, I'm enjoying this. Because you want earworms when you're a kid. You want these you want these characters to have weird voices, without being racist, obviously, but you want them to have memorable character voices that you can mimic and imitate. And I can't do a, like, you want to buy a sundial, like, New York kind of accent, but this is just amazing because it's a fucking poodle and it sounds like
And we have, we have had some history of this in the other films where, we've had the bat and the, God, what was the character in Rapunzel?
There's a dragon. And then there was the, like, was it a bunny rabbit?
A weasel. He's like a weasel, isn't he?
Yeah.
The Ermine Stoat thing, yeah. So we have some previous with funny accented bad animals, but this one has this poodle has two main character features. One is he speaks like Tony Soprano, and the other one is he's got a gold tooth.
He's got a gold tooth and he's called Midas.
And he's
It's
called
so
Midas. And
good.
he's called Midas on the nose. I mean,
It's
yeah,
so
I
good because it's like Home Alone, where Harry is constantly scared about losing his gold tooth, and then he does. Like, that's the subplot of this poodle. He's terrified of losing his gold tooth. And spoiler alert, he does, and it's so
I,
good.
I'm not sure I have the same love for Midas as you do, because Martin Short, let's not forget, has played Preminger as an Englishman.
Yes.
Yeah, so as some sort of Georgian Englishman in a completely, you know, anachronistic way. Why he would have a poodle that's a gangster?
Because it's amazing.
But it
I
isn't.
really
It
love
isn't.
it. I see
It
what you're
isn't as
saying.
annoying. It isn't as annoying as Maggie Wheeler's voice, which is a real
Mm,
love it or hate it thing in the previous film. And
yeah.
not too much time is wasted with these characters. They have their own little
Used.
subplots, but it's comic relief, isn't it? Because as we've
Yeah, and I,
discussed,
I really like it.
there's some dark old shit going on down here.
Yeah.
You know, as we've spoken about, we haven't even got to our first kidnapping yet, but there's
One of many.
kidnappings, indentured servitude, selling your child off to save the kingdom. Um, yeah, there's a strange kidnap plots involving different members of families. Um, yeah, so to have this is a bit of a laugh. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to let you have it. I'm not taking points away from Midas, but just be aware it's unlike anything else in the movie.
Yeah. I love it. I love these three animals. I think the way they're used is good. I think that you're right. It's not like Disney's Cinderella, where sometimes we can spend too much time with the mice and not enough time with Cinderella. They balance it out really well here, and they're useful to the plot, and they're interesting, and I root for them. So it's really good. So, Annalise is hanging out with Julian, who is a very well realized Ken here. Julian is very attractive in this movie. I talked about previously in Swan Lake, they were really working on the faces and the dialogues between the lovers. Julian is up there with like Dimitri from Anastasia. Like, he's like a really good character. He's like memorably good. He's
So he's
hot, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not touching any of this with barge poles or even with your barge pole, frankly, because he's an animated character. But uh, but he is an interesting character, period, because
Yeah.
he's Annalise's tutor, I think.
Mm.
He belongs. He's one of the few characters that lives in both worlds.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody. You know, he's clearly from the town, but is allowed to visit. Um, he's just genuinely nice and
Yeah,
sharp
and
and
not.
intelligent and
This is the thing. He's not nice in a way that we've seen the Ken role fall into the classic princess role before now, where they're just nice, they turn up, they dance, they sing, they get married.
mm,
Julian, again, has agency. He has action. He's
he's
thoughtful
going
and
and
inquisitive.
he's going to take part in the plot. So he's a
Mm.
key person. Julian has an alter ego. I don't know what to call him, but King Dominic is also played by Ken, um,
Yes. And
who
he does
is
more fall into the traditional.
he does, and he's overly perfect in some ways, and he doesn't seem
Yes.
to have, he just accepts a lot of things without any fuss and nonsense.
Hmm.
He's a bit too perfect. I don't know what the male equivalent for Mary Sue is, but that's what I feel King Dominic is.
Yeah.
He's just perfect in every way, and you just think, ugh.
But it's
So take
fine because we've got Julian, who is so well done as a character.
Yeah, no, Julian
And
is the
you
best
really.
Ken so far, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure. For sure. And I think it's going to be difficult to beat him because he's just a really good character. And you get the impression that he's a little bit older as well, which is really fun, rather than them both being like 16. And not older in like a Romeo and Juliet way where he's still dumb. I mean, like, I feel like Annalise is like 20 and Julian's like 26 or something. I don't know.
Mm.
I just really get that vibe and I like it. I really like it. So he takes her into the city for the first and last time, which is questionable, just to sort of see what the village is like before she's forced to marry King Dominic.
And it's really lucky, isn't it? Because she's managed to hide her identity by hiding behind a sort of headscarf
Big old
whilst dressed
cloak.
as a princess.
Yeah.
The fact that she came in on some fucking magic carriage, a bejeweled, encrusted carriage, pulls up at the curb, gets out, but no one's going to know it's her. You know, everyone else is apparently in. It's all a bit cool, blimey, governor, ain't poverty nasty, but we're getting on with it kind of thing going on as well.
But it's also, this is the thing, you're like, what is this kingdom? They are living in luxury. They're really worried because the gold mines are running out and they don't know what their economy is going to do. But they don't care. It's not the economy for the country. It just seems to be the economy for the palace because the village is typically shit. Like, it's people living in their own shit, going from paycheck to paycheck, going to food banks, scraps off the street, probably rats everywhere. And there's such a divide, which is common in this sort of fairy tale-ish kingdom. And I keep saying fairy tale and it's not fairy tale, but you know what I mean, this sort of fictional medieval kingdom. And it's often so the princess can be confronted with the poor and be like, oh no, we must do all we can to change this. That's not where this story goes. Annalise doesn't give a shit. But it's really funny to me how she walks into town and there's a real sense of like, raise the guillotine, seize the means of production, like down with the monarchy kind of vibe, because it's so hard done by, but it doesn't really enter into the plot, even though when we do meet Erika, everyone's sort of aware of the royal family. They know their names and they know that they exist, but it's almost like they're just expected to not expect anything from them. It's like, yes, they get to live in luxury because they're the monarchy chosen by God, and we're the poor people, and that's just how things are here.
And of course the Queen has this thing about all the gold. I don't understand what the Queen's been doing with this gold, right?
No.
Because she seems to have some maternal love for her people, genuine maternal love for the people, and she's really upset. And that's why she's going to sell her daughter to get more money. But how is this gold evidencing itself with these people? The suggestion I'm getting is, that the now the gold's run out, this poverty's suddenly taken over the city or the town or whatever it is. But I don't get that because Erika's story talks to a completely different world. Yeah. Where her parents are in poverty and they've had to basically sell her as a slave off to Madame Carp, one of the weirdest named people ever. So yeah, it's kind of weird. It's nice though that although I was taking the mick out of her identity was hidden but by a scarf, there's no photographs. They don't know what she looks like, and I think that is kind of nice. So maybe if they just parked a little bit further away, I would have
and she'd have made more of an effort with her dress. But then it does become part of the plot, so you can kind of forgive it for that because she's wearing the exact same cloak as Erika, and we hear Erika from afar singing a lovely song called Written in Your Heart. And honestly, as I was listening to it, I was like, right, I'm going to need me a credits version of this song, probably sung by Celine Dion, maybe someone else, but like it's just calling out to me for like a credits version of this song in particular, because it's the first sort of solo that we've come across for a girl. I don't think I got it, which was a shame.
We have a completely different song at the end.
We have an original number, which is valid. It's valid,
but it's not. But it's not a musical. It's a more traditional pop song, which is interesting.
Which is okay because a lot of Disney's they would do the credits version of the in-movie song, and then they would also have an original song on top of that.
I have no problem with it. Obviously, I don't like musicals, period. But I know what you're saying. It would have been nice to have this Yeah, because
Like, like,
this song is it's called back. There's another version of it later, isn't there?
yeah.
Um, so there's a callback. That's the word I'm after. There's a callback to
Mm,
it at the end. It would have been nice if that was maybe just. I don't get the sense there's a theme to this film, in terms of a music theme. Um,
mm.
and it might have been nice if that's the one that we all remembered. What's this
Yeah,
film's Let It Go?
yeah.
And not so sure. I guess it's this, but
Well, I don't know that it's this because it's quite short. It's just done as a sort of, hey, here's Erika. She wants to be a singer, but she's blah, 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 blah. So then Annalise and Erika bump into each other and they do that wonderful thing that they do in all these movies where, like, how would you react if you came face to face with your fucking doppelganger? Because what happens in the movies is that they all go, gosh, we look quite the same, don't we? Oh, how
so
strange.
so this it would go one of two ways for me. One is I might not notice. I know that sounds I know
Yeah.
that sounds a funny thing to say, but would I really notice that someone looked like me?
Mm.
Um, because I know I see myself in the mirror most days. But even he gives me a surprise sometimes, the person that I see in the mirror. So I don't know. I don't know if we're programmed to the way that,
Acknowledge that.
yeah, you might see two people who look the same, so you two look the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know but that's a kind of deep sciencey question, isn't it, about
I think it's
perception and
valid.
stuff. The other thing would be because I understand that seeing your doppelganger in German culture is a it's an indicator that you're about to die. So
Oh, shit.
that's what a doppelganger is. A doppelganger, seeing your doppelganger, is an indicator that you're about to die.
Ah,
That's what the German word doppelganger means. So
right.
I'd be thinking, oh my god, I'm going to die. I
Fuck,
wouldn't
fuck,
be
fuck,
going,
fuck.
I wouldn't be going, oh yeah, which is pretty much what these two did.
Yeah, which is lovely because they've also got the same cloak, which actually makes sense because we learn that Erika works for the seamstress and makes all the clothes, and the biggest buyer of these clothes are the royal palace. So she points out that Annalise is wearing a dress that she made, and chances are they're wearing the same cloak because Annalise would have got it from the shop that Erika works in. And
And
it's so small a detail,
can
but
we
it's
just
so
take a moment?
important as an adult for
Yeah.
that kind of thing to be wrapped up.
Can we
Because,
just take a moment and just
yeah,
applaud that? Because that's
yeah,
really strong writing.
it's
Okay,
brilliant.
this is a fucking Barbie movie,
Yeah,
and and
it had
there's a lot
no
of things
right.
I will spend the last 5 episodes, the next 30 episodes having a right old go about some of the things, but that is a really smart
It's
piece of writing
clever.
that we haven't had to overthink and twist into any kind
Mm-hmm.
of justification. It
Because
is.
it's just there.
It's a clever bit of it. Doesn't need any exposition. It's just
Yeah.
smart. Well done. Well
Well
done.
done.
Who wrote this film? Let's give them some credit.
Beautiful.
Written by Cliff Ruby and Ilana Lessay. Lessay. Don't know. I don't have any more clues than that. But
Alana
well done.
Lesser, let's say. And
Lesser.
Cliff
Yeah.
Ruby. Great names. Well done.
Well done,
Well
you.
done. Well done. And just while we're here, shout out to Amy Powers, Megan Cavallari, and Rob Hudnut for the songs, for the original songs.
Well done, you as well.
Really well done.
Well,
Just
race.
really good jobs all round. Love it. So then we get the bit that is the most well known. This is the meme that I see everywhere. This is the shared screenshot from this movie. And we talked about Written in Your Heart being the theme because it's got the finale reprise version at the end. But this is the bit that everybody remembers from this movie. It seems as just someone who's casually on the internet looking at vague Barbie stuff. They perform I Am a Girl Like You straight after Erika has genuinely turned to Annalise and said, I'm an indentured servant. Like, What? Why? I think I paused the movie to be like, huh? That's the kind of joke I make. You don't say indentured servant in a Barbie movie. That's not a term that you come across. But they do, and fucking hats off to them, introducing indentured servitude to a new generation of young people. Like, well fucking done for going there and showing that it's not good as well.
Mummy, what's an indentured servant? A bunch of middle-class women up and down the United States and Europe grit their teeth and prepare to explain Marxist theory to their young children.
It's great. Like, I really love it, and maybe it's more problematic and I'm not thinking about it straight, but to me I was just like, fucking go, Barbie. Like, yeah, like, she is an indentured servant, and that is a term that we should know about, and we should know the horrific atrocities that happened with those words throughout history, especially
and still happen now. I'm talking to you, Nike and Apple and
Primark.
Yeah, it's still a thing.
So well done, 2004 Barbie movie. Like, fucking hats off to you. And then we basically get a song about indentured servitude, which I was like, this is why this movie is beloved by all. I'm seeing it now. Because they sing I Am a Girl Like You, which I had some problems with when I first listened to it, because I was like, you know, Erika has just said, I'm an indentured servant. I'm paying off the debts of my parents who sold me to Madame Carp to make dresses for her for the rest of my life. And Annalise is like, I feel you. I'm exactly the same. Sometimes I'll order eggs and have to eat them in my bed when really I just want to be in the library reading science books. And you're like, Annalise, that's not the same. It's not.
Phrase number 2, false equivalency.
But then they sing this song, and at heart, of course, thematically, they are similar in that they are yearning to be places that they're not. But I was like, Annalise, check your privilege. Like, come on.
And the irony is, of course, as we discussed at the beginning of this, is no, she is just like her because she is going to be sold.
Yeah, of course.
To the other
it's like
prince,
Shrek.
yeah?
In the Shrek musical, they have a wonderful song about how Fiona and Shrek have things in common because when they were young, but their parents sent them away, and never wanted anything to do with them anymore, and they bond over that fact, and it's really lovely. And yeah, like, they're both being sold by their parents in this system for their parents' sake. So they do have things in common that are quite dark and deep. But just
not in this song.
Just going about, I was like, Annalise, of course you can go to the library instead of eating eggs. You're a princess. Like, no one's stopping you. Like, come on. But it's a lovely song. They have a great little dance number. We get to, like, see them strut about the streets for a bit, singing. I can't sing a bit because I've forgotten how it goes, but I enjoyed it. Beyond Annalise checking her privilege, I thought it was good. And they basically do a "Did we just become best friends?" In this song, which is fine because, and again, there's reasons for it because Annalise is like, I love your dresses. I think you're so talented. And Erika's like, you're fucking welcome, bitch. You know, there's no, like, returning the compliment because there's that wonderful bit where she's like, Annalise, you have the same name as the princess. And I was like, oh, no. Are we going to be doing a thing for a bit? But no time to waste. We got kidnappings to get going on with. So it's immediately, oh, you are the princess, which I was so happy about. None of this shit bullshit.
They don't spend 2 acts in any kind of confusion with each other. Yeah, and they're not identical because Annalise has an on-the-nose birthmark.
A given by God
crown birthmark. I'm surprised Erika didn't have a poo emoji birthmark.
Or, like, I was expecting there to be some sort of... I don't know what I was expecting. I'm not as good a writers as the people that did Barbie's The Princess and the Pauper, because I would have also given Erika a birthmark without really realising that, of course, we need some sort of distinction between the two other than hair colour. Something that can't be so easily changed, and it is a major plot point. So it's plant and payoff as well. A lot of planting, a lot of payoff in this movie, which I'm a big fan of.
There really is.
So
compared to what we've been used to the last
Yeah.
few, which have been fairly direct narratives, that they're just follow on. There are seeds planted here.
Yeah.
I mean, I might not agree with everything with a sensible hat on, but there's
You leave
foreshadowing.
Midas's tooth alone.
There's Midas's tooth. There's the geode that breaks open in the mine when we first meet Nick and Knack. There's the whole thing with the outfits that we were just been talking about, and some of these things pay off. It is. It's well written.
It's really well done.
And yeah, well, we'll see at the end where we put this in the Barbie movies, because we're barely a third the way through the film.
Yeah, there's just so much to say. It's so good. So again, really lovely. Annalise is like, hey, I'll send for you. You should come sing at the palace sometime. And Erika's like, fuck me, that'd be amazing. Thank you. Like, I really love Erika's character, because she's not really... You could argue that Annalise is a bit like similar Barbies that we've met before, and just similar characters from media that we've met before. The sort of not docile, but very well-behaved, polite young princess that just longs for something more and has her little I want song. Whereas Erika gets to break that mould a bit more and gets to be a bit more wild in that sense. And she's really fun because of it, because she gets to act like a real human, which you don't really get to see women do in movies, especially for children, where, she's given this opportunity to sing at the palace, and she's literally like, fuck yeah, like, this is going to be amazing. Like, I literally cannot wait. It's going to be awesome.
Ever. Yeah.
Best day ever. But, and put a pin in that, because we'll come back to that. We return to the palace, and fucking Preminger begins our first kidnapping of the movie, where he manages to capture Serafina and then use her as bait for Annalise, and they just literally toss her in the back of a cart and take her to like a pub on the outskirts of town and keep her locked in a room. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And Nick and Knack, kidnappers, miners. His whole plan relies on a couple of morons.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have thought with all that gold, he could have bought in some help from elsewhere.
Well, some like proper thugs instead of like an idiot and his brother. But it's fine. We get Annalise out the way, and Julian's super sus. Julian, just as a fun fact, is voiced by the same guy that does the English dub of Death Note. He's L in Death Note, which is a real fun fact of mine whenever anyone plays L, because Usopp in One Piece is voiced by L from the Japanese Death Note, and L is just such a fun character that he's just so individual that it always makes me laugh when I think that the voice actors are able to do other stuff. I don't know why, but that was just a fun fact. Julian is L from Death Note, so that's really fun.
So this is which Death Note though? Which, like the anime?
It's the dub of the anime, and also he did the dub of the live action movie. Okay. Not the Netflix one, obviously. Yes.
Which me and Elwood did a show about once, and we didn't bring up that the voice was done by the same man from Barbie, who's Julian in Barbie, Prince of the Pauper. How things tie together.
Yeah.
Opportunity lost.
You have to go back and edit it in.
I will. I'll have to tell Elwood tonight. I'll have to say, mate, we got to sort this out. This is a key. That in terms of the giant interconnected universe, we've missed something.
We really, really have. Yes, so then her dress is gorgeous. It's so good. So then, of course, we have to go and find Erika. And Julian comes to get Erika, thinking on his feet, progressing the plot, and he's like, can't get a word in edgeways because Erika's like, oh my god, you've come for me so I can go sing at the palace. This is amazing. This is all I've ever wanted. Oh my god, what am I going to wear? And it's just so refreshing to see a female character do this, like not let the man speak and misunderstand the situation through excitement and passion and eagerness. And it was just really, really fun to watch her go off on one like this, and then for Julian to be like, no, I need you to be the princess, and she's like, all right.
All right. That sounded as good as what I was wanted to do, but all right,
that'll do. And to get around the hair problem, we get introduced to a beautiful wig, which I thought was clever because I was like, I don't want them to do a Parent Trap because you lose the distinction, because that's kind of what they need to do. Whereas here you get to keep the distinction and just have a disguise. And we have a wonderful Pygmalion-esque number sung by Julian, To Be a Princess, where he teaches Erika the ways of royal life. And we sort of get an insight into how tough Annalise has had it, in the sense that there's a lot of rules and a lot of things you have to be when you're a princess, and it's a bit restrictive. And it's your classic, like, put on these heels and try and walk in them and don't let the crown fall off your head kind of thing. And I'm always a huge fan of them, whether it's Anastasia, You Can Learn to Do It, which is a bop, or even Pocahontas 2, Journey to a New World, where they're like whitening Pocahontas to get her ready for the ball, and she's like, oh, well, tuck in your waist and put a wig on you, ready for the bear baiting. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Pocahontas is bad enough, and they managed to make it worse.
Pocahontas is the Disney movie with most troubling.
So problematic on so many levels.
Not saying it's not actually based on a true story, but there's ways and means, aren't there?
Well, you read into the true story, and all of a sudden you don't want it to be based on that story.
Indeed.
But yeah, so Erika starts living in the palace, and Julian is trying to figure out what's happening. They get the visit from King Dominic's dad and this suspiciously handsome page who accompanies him. And
is he not? Does not call himself the ambassador, or is that somebody else?
Yeah, just some sort of silent guard figure accompanying the king, who's very handsome and looks a lot like Julian. And you're like,
I wonder why this character is having attention drawn to them.
Why has he got so much screen time?
Can the artist only draw people that look like Julian?
Yeah. But you love it. You love to see it. And Erika comes in and she falls down because is this even my childhood if the main characters aren't clumsy, TM? Which is awful because I was not a clumsy child. I'm not a clumsy person. I'm actually, dare I say it, quite graceful and spatially aware.
Dexterous.
Yeah, very opposite of that sort of gawky, ugly duckling-esque, can't figure out how to walk between two tables without smacking into the corner vibe that all of these main characters give off in my childhood. So I always thought I was missing. I always thought I was like snobby because I wasn't clumsy, because those are your only two options. And I didn't try and force myself to be clumsy. I was very happy that I was,
able
to not
your big
smack
toe
into
so
walls.
you couldn't stand up.
I didn't force myself to do these things, but I was a bit like, I'm probably not as attractive as my peers because I don't smack into things. Those thoughts did run through my head because that's the effect that these films have on children.
Everybody in a mate is looking for the clumsiest, least yeah, someone who's
The
going to
most,
fall over
because
and
it's
break their nose.
vulnerable. Yeah, because you're looking, if I don't know
That's
what it
not
is, because
that's not how
I
Darwinism works. I can guarantee.
no, exactly. It's like they've tried to put out the patriarchy. Just like, let me just like fucking get on my soapbox. From what I understand, the patriarchy insists on telling women that they're too fat and they're too like they need to spend all their money and they need to be placated and they need to be malnourished so they remain vulnerable so the patriarchy can take advantages of them. Now this is a very extreme way to look at things, and I wonder if clumsiness comes into that, because if you're clumsy, you're not thinking straight and you're constantly smacking into things and you're vulnerable and you need to be protected, so it forces you into the entrapment of a male figure who can then pull the purse strings and look at, help you on your way around life because you're too clumsy to be left alone by yourself. And I don't know, it just sort of, it could easily play into that sort of extreme trope, whatever we may think of that. But I was not clumsy, I was very confident, and that was a bad thing, because then you become the femme fatale. Because if you're not the virgin, you're the femme fatale.
See,
Those are the only two things women could be.
so what you've made me think of then is a moment in the Michael Caine version of Alfie, where Gilda, the girl, the first girl that he's with, she says something along. She's clumsy, or she's hurt, or she keeps apologising for being clumsy, and he says something very much along those lines that, yeah, that's right, love, I'm here to protect you. Not that I'm sticking up for this whole patriarchy thing, but yes, my mind is immediately drawn to a moment which was meant to critique that and not meant to be taken seriously. Of course, you are not meant to take Alfie seriously. It is very critical
Yeah.
of the lead character, but I know a
Isn't
lot
he
of
meant to
people.
be a shit?
He is an utter, and
Yeah.
you might have to beep that out. And I'm alright if you do, but that's the point. A lot of people don't view it like that. But yes, he uses that. He is protecting this girl. He thinks he's protecting her. Really, he's holding her back and stopping her doing anything with her
Yeah.
life because he's a dick. But yes. Anyway, sorry, that's an Alfie to
Yeah, sorry, that was a
Barbie.
tangent.
Yeah.
I know we're trying to keep these episodes to like 40 minutes, but we're breaking down a whole movie. That takes time. So like, I'm really sorry if they're like 2 hours.
It's not going to happen on this one for sure. I've got a feeling later episodes might be 10 minutes long.
Yeah, well, we're just like hated.
But I think this one deserves it because there's a lot packed in.
Definitely. It's good. It's so good. I cannot stress that enough.
I mean, it's no Logan's Run, but
It has less problems than Logan's Run, like less plot holes than Logan's Run. Yeah, so my notes get quite thin here because I just really fucking loved the movie, so I kind of can't remember what happened. So Erika's like chilling in the palace, and Dominic goes to explain to her that he'd disguised himself because he didn't want to marry a stranger either. Now, seeing someone for 5 minutes and not talking to them is not the same as introducing yourself before your arranged marriage, but I could see where he was coming from, and it was a nice thought, even if it wasn't how you perhaps would do it today, where you would let them get to know each other. And we're ramping up to that, sort of. We still have to keep to this children's run time, so we can't go too crazy when we've got like 9 different plots happening.
Do you know what I'd have really liked, though? If Dominic had been gay and said, look, I don't want to get married either.
Yes.
And that's why he's so... Because he's really capable and overly capable, actually, and he's overly nice, and he's very sharp. Wouldn't it be lovely if he was like there was some reason he couldn't be with her. He's unlikely to be gay, as we've talked about before, but he could maybe like someone else, be betrothed to another, which is kind of where they go with it. But if he'd had somebody back in his own kingdom that he really wanted to be with. There's a film I watched only the other day which had very much the same idea in, where 2 people didn't get together, and actually the one that she was sort of betrothed to said, look, I've actually got a girlfriend somewhere else. I'm just doing this because my parents... What
There's
was
a
the
really
film?
wonderful moment in Ever After where the prince is being betrothed to the Princess of Spain, and her lover is in the audience weeping, and she is like bawling. It's like it's played for laughs. And halfway through the wedding, he's just like, for fuck's sake, like, this is ridiculous. Like, go and be with your love. I'm not going to marry you. Like, fuck off and go and be with your lover. And she's like,
Well,
yes!
it also
It's
happens
so
in
good.
the second season finale of Harley Quinn, where Kite Man tells Poison Ivy he knows that she's not really going to marry him, go off and be with Harley.
Yes,
He does the same thing.
yes. So good.
But that's what I was kind of hoping out of just a little bit more, because he is too. As Mary Sue as Julian is a bit, Dominic's a little too nice, and it'd just be nice if there was something about him that stopped him being so perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Because he's very understanding as well. He goes to sort of confess to Erika, but can overhear her door, which is not locked while she's in the bath. But that's fine. I'll let it go because he listens in to her singing. Because she's already sung the cat's meow. She's singing the cat's meow, and she starts in this bubble bath, which looks awesome. And she's just singing
a very
to Wolfie.
a very modern bath as well. You know, like from a Flake advert or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. It's sort of herbal essences vibes a little bit. But she's singing to Wolfie because Wolfie's trying to meow and he can't meow. He can only bark, and it's so cute. He's like, she's like, oh, are you trying to meow? And he's like, woof. And I was like, oh my God, my heart. I can't take it. I cannot. Love it so much. And he overhears her singing to her cat, and she's basically just like, you are a perfect cat. I love you regardless of your quirks. You're amazing. And I was like, this is such a good song. This is such a good bit of character. And it's really lovely because it really sums up. It's the type of thing that I wish would happen in real life sometimes. You know, when people overhear people say things in movies where they're like, I really do truly care for them and I just wish they knew how I felt, but don't ever tell them I said that. And they've overheard that, so you've not had to have that conversation with them and they just like know it now. It's sort of like that where Dominic can listen in and be like, cool, she's a decent person. I'm on board with that. That's okay. Let's go forward with this. It would make life so much easier if that happened more often.
What if we could all hear other people's conversations about us?
Yeah, if they're good. I don't want to hear bad conversations.
I was going to say, I think there's I think there's that's literally a double-edged sword. And I wonder, would the benefits of this be outweighed by the shit that would go down because of that? And I'd suggest not. I'd say it's a 2%, 98% balance.
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear anything bad. None of that. Just the good stuff. Rather than what you usually get, which is the like Shakespearean Shrek vibes, where you hear half a conversation and you make your mind up about the rest of it. Lazy writing. But yeah. So we get to know Dominic over a song. He am I getting things mixed up? Do we have has Martin Short changed his plan by now?
I can't remember. Where's Annalise?
She's
because Annalise gets away, doesn't she? She
does, because Serafina comes to help her, which is so wonderful. Like, Serafina is such a fun character because she makes friends with this French horse who's like hanging outside the pub. Yeah. I keep saying it's a pub. I think it's a pub.
So there's this horse. Of course, it's a cart horse, isn't it?
Yeah, that belongs to Preminger. And she like vaults herself onto the roof and comes down the chimney, and she's very prim and proper, and she steps out of this soot-filled grate into the room, and Annalise is like, Serafina, is that you? And Serafina's just like, I'm just not going to look at myself. And I just thought it was really lovely because she's just like, nope, I did this for my darling mistress but good God, I hate myself. This is awful. I really loved it. So good. And then wonderful, considering she's a woman of science, we're led to believe, she goes down the supernatural route where Annalise gets Serafina to pretend to be a ghost and gets Nick and Nack to come in, who are then instantly scared. They throw the sheet on them and escape. She escapes of her own accord with no help from anybody else.
Apart from the cat.
She escapes.
Apart from Serafina. And
yeah, but like two women passing the Bechdel test.
I mean,
escaping on their own.
Anything's could have beaten Nick and Nack. Again, Preminger had some shitty plans, but basing it on those two is just like what?
It's like dumb. It's like he wanted to fail.
But yes, but then Preminger finds out that she's escaped.
Yes.
So again, in this genius bit of dense plotting, he now knows for sure that
Erika
can't be. Well, he knows already because he knows that Erika can't be because he knows he's kidnapped her. But now he hasn't kidnapped her. The whole thing's on a fucking knife edge because there's Annalise and Erika, and he knows where one of them is and where one of them, but he doesn't know where the other one is. The whole thing could blow up at any moment. Fair play, Preminger. You know, he decides to up it.
Yeah.
Out this one. Deal with the other one if it turns up.
Yep.
Go for the Queen.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much how his plan worked.
It's smart. It's a great twist in Act 3. It's you know, we forgot to mention that again, just very Home Alone of them. Julian stole the Queen's glasses, so she's never quite truly seeing Erika as Annalise, which takes away any worry that we're like, surely a mother would recognise her own daughter.
Again,
no, because her glasses have been stolen.
Smart bit of writing.
Just so well thought out. Like this could have so easily been done lazily and thoughtlessly because it's such a dense story in that so much could go wrong. It's like Why Ever After is so good because it's a Cinderella story that constantly is thinking of the consequences and the realities of things. And that's what you've got to have. So it's just so good. And Annalise ends up at Erika's store. And the woman in charge, Miss Carp, is like, shut up, Erika! Get to work! Or whatever. Which is the one bit that I'm like, I'll buy it. Like, you know, if someone turned around and was like, I am the Princess Annalise, how dare you speak to me like that? And she's convinced that it's Erika suddenly being uppity. But I'm like, wouldn't even a little bit of you be like, shit, what if it is the princess? I don't know.
Well,
and it's because she's dumb and villainous, but
yeah,
it was the one bit that I had to be like,
and it is predicated that Madame Carp has never been to the palace to meet the princess, which I think is unlikely because obviously the princess buys all her clothes from Madame Carp. So yeah, but again, that I could have done with that Madame Carp period as a character, didn't it? Don't, you know, I don't mind. I was about to say I don't mind Erika being an indentured servant. I don't mind that as a plot point. I don't need to know her tormentor. And bringing her tormentor into both worlds gives no value. Other characters like Julian being in both worlds. Julian being in both worlds is enough for me because then that means he can make the plot work.
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that nobody else will have seen the pair of them before is a bit like, really?
Yeah, and Mrs. Carp's only there so she can like lock the door. So Annalise is trapped again, which is fine because otherwise it's too easy. Indeed. So she sends Serafina off with her ring to try and get someone's attention to know that where she is. While she's doing this, Erika and Dominic are singing a beautiful love song, "If You Love Me for Me," which is great, and it's just very quick. We're in love now, I guess. So that's that. And again, it's fine. Like, I don't mind it at all. We knew that this was where we were going, and I'm happy for them. They're cute. It's all good. So, and Dominic has a really lovely singing voice. Like, a really lovely singing voice. And I think he's a good distinction from Julian, because we say they're both Ken, but similarly to the fact that Erika and Annalise are both Barbie, they're both distinct. And it's because Julian has like more character than Dominic. But this little character that Dominic does have is different and distinct. And I guess, again, he's the sort of Annalise of this relationship because he's been brought up in the palace with the etiquette and all of these things, and he's more restrained. And so it all works out. It's all very clever. It's all really thoughtful. So, yeah, Preminger finds Annalise in the shop and is like, I'm going to marry your mum now. Fuck you.
That's bad. You know, you had your chance, but you had to go and get a double involved. I'm after your mother.
So then he comes out and he exposes Erika by the birthmark payoff.
Yep.
And it's really heartbreaking, actually, because you've gotten invested in this relationship with Dominic and you're like, shit, this is fuck. You've got invested in the mum's relationship, and the mum thinks Annalise is dead because Preminger brings her ring and is like, there was a mining accident and Annalise is dead, along with Julian, because he's trapped them both in the mine. And instead of just doing that and actually killing them, he's like, just wait here and I'll go pretend you're dead, which is very nice of him. But yeah, the Queen thinks her only daughter is dead, and this woman that she's been hanging out with for like a day is an imposter, and it's really emotional, and you really do feel for these characters, which is quite a feat. And you feel really bad about Dominic, and again, to her credit, Erika tries to get it out. She's like, please let me... Rather than saying, let me explain, I wish these characters in these situations got to the point quicker. Like, I would not be with the niceties. I'd be like, right, so I was told that Annalise was kidnapped by him, so then I needed to come in and be Annalise until we found Annalise. Clearly they found Annalise, and so that's why I'm here. And yeah, just find Annalise, she's still alive. Like, that's what I would do. Rather than be like, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. Oh, just listen to me. Which she does a bit of. And then she's like, I was here to try and save Anna. I would never hurt the princess. I was trying to save Annalise from him. Which was good enough for me. Because so often they get taken out without having spat out any of the plot. But she manages to get a couple of lines out, which then causes suspicion amongst, like, Dominic and...
Well, Dominic don't believe a word of it, does he? He doesn't believe what's going on with Preminger. He's obviously, you can, a man of breeding can tell where breeding is lacking in one of his rivals, and he can probably tell by just being upper class that Preminger's a bad sort, and therefore
power is something you're born with, as a Zula would say.
We just know. This little chimney sweep of a girl. Let's say Pygmalion style. There's more to her story. Let's go and find out.
Yes, good for him. And so Preminger is like, yo, yo, you, yo, which is a quote from Scooby-Doo 2002 live action movie. And he's like, I'm gonna marry you because the mines are empty. And she's like, I know, and it sucks. And he's like, and I am not empty. I'm actually quite rich. And she's like, I believe you. Like, okay. And he's like, so marry me. And she's like, I guess so. And you're like, fuck, that was easy.
Yeah, he's as rich as a nation state.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think he'd had a chance of marrying her anyway. Because, do you remember at the very beginning of the film, the Queen is quite, if only my trusted advisor Preminger is here. Yeah. I reckon that every chance of becoming Prince Regent without any of the fucking kidnapping. I had a sense she quite liked his Martin Short-like ways.
If he'd have just like sucked it up and been a bit more romantic, candlelight dinners instead of kidnappings, maybe none of this needed to happen.
I mean, he still probably needed to steal all the gold to get us into this position, but I think he could have seduced her.
Yeah.
And yeah, but because no, Preminger is a wrong un.
Yeah, He's just too evil for that kind of thing. So instead, so Erika escapes again. No help from anyone. She steals the keys from the sleeping guard
because
using her singing talent.
She can send people to sleep with her voice. She's like a fucking X-Man.
You know what, though? Like, I always talk about how I hate the trope of when women, like, blow a kiss at a man and he turns red and passes out. And very close to that is the trope of the woman being like, go to sleep, adult man. My voice is so enchanting, you can't help it, kind of thing. And it's so close to that
sorry,
kissing
I fell asleep.
trope. It's so close to that kissing trope, and yet it's so stupidly innocent that I'm like, oh, whatever, I love it. I don't love it, but like, I'll take it. And because her whole thing is that she wants to be a singer, it was fine because I was like, it ties in.
She's an X-Man. She's an X-Man.
Yeah.
It's her mutant power. There's a character in the Marvel universe called Lorelei, whose mutant power is singing and being able to affect men's behaviours by the way she sings.
Just men's behaviour.
Because she's based on the sirens of Greek myth.
Right. Okay.
But yes, she would be able to do this, and she'd also be able to drive you to madness and things like that as well. But yes. There you go, deep awesome. Dive Marvel comic stuff for you there.
And maybe if Erika works really hard, she can be like Black Canary from DC.
Oh, indeed, and just shake the place, boom, 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 shake the room. There you go. I think that's 2 Will Smiths in 2 episodes.
But yeah, she sends this guard off to sleep and she steals the fucking keys and escapes because these women don't need no man. They choose to have a man. They don't need them. They want them, which is, really good for 2004 for children, for Barbie. And she bumps into this guard who, I love it. I love this trope as well, where it's like, get off me. And you're like, they are clearly your love interest. Like, come on, you're meant to be in love with this person. No one else wears their helmet like that. Like, why is this person so sus? It's because it's your love interest. Come on.
It is I, the perfect Prince Dominic, potentially homosexual love interest for you, because I didn't believe a word that Preminger bad sort said, so I came down disguised as a guard to come and find out.
And she's like, wow, you really love this disguising thing, don't you? Like, okay.
I'm going for my own show, the Dominic Super Spy, but it doesn't play out, unfortunately. Papa won't let me be a super spy.
I've got my duties to my kingdom.
I'm really good at archery. Oh no, that was the other one.
It's all culminating at this wedding where Preminger and the Queen are walking down the aisle, and all of the townsfolk are like kind of okay with it. They don't really know what's going on. So Annalise turns up and she's like, stop the wedding! And then Erika turns up with Dominic and Julian's there and we're all there, and it's just, they drag it out and it's beautifully done. It's like, Queen, do you take Preminger to be your lawfully wedded husband? And she's like, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And just as she goes, Annalise is like, I'm here! And you're like, yeah! So dramatic. I love it. So good. So everybody turns up and they're like, what the fuck, dude? And then in another wonderful plant and payoff, Martin Short gets on the horse who has been helping our main characters throughout every time they've gotten to that rotten pub to be kidnapped in. And he storms off on the horse, and the horse has a change of heart halfway through where he's like, you know what? Fuck you, Preminger. And he turns around and he takes him back to the kingdom, which I've never seen before as a thing. And I really liked it. Because if you're going to introduce animals that have thought and can talk, what a wonderful way to use it as like a weapon against the villain. So good.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about the horse. I mean,
No.
not that much, 'cause he gets a few lines. And my problem with it is that he's well, what I would call a shire horse or a cart horse, and
Mm.
he'd be absolutely shit at galloping away because he's a big, heavy horse designed for pulling carts. He's not a racehorse or anything like that. So really, that would be like getting away in Mr. Bean's car or something like that. So it wouldn't take much for anyone to catch him. But it is kind of nice that exposure to Serafina and Annalise earlier on has obviously played on the. Is the horse called Herve or something like that? It's a funny
Yeah,
name. Um,
because he's
uh,
French.
for some reason. For no reason.
For
But
no
then again,
reason.
well, just so he's not a just so he's because he's not a gangster from Little
Yeah.
Italy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's not even played by a Frenchman. I don't. None of that makes sense. Oh, he's.
Mm-mm.
Oh my God.
What?
Herve is played by a guy called Gary Chalk, who was
Uh-huh.
the voice of Optimus Primal, and I say Primal, in Beast Wars and Beast Machines, which is
Oh my god.
like one of the worst early CGI cartoons, but is
Oh.
amazing. The writing on those shows is amazing, and he's Optimus Prime from various other modern Transformer animes. So
No
he's not the famous
way.
Optimus Prime voice, but he is to the fans of Beast Wars, and there will be many. Maybe not listen to this show, but yeah, it's one of the greatest CGI cartoons, let down only by the state of CGI at the time. But the writing is phenomenal, and yeah, and he's Optimus Primal. Who
Ah.
so yeah. Anyway, but Herve, yes. Sorry, Herve. So again, no idea why he's speaking French or why he is French, but yes, it is nice that
No
he
clue.
has that change of heart. I mean, it was a pointless getaway.
Mm.
Because it would have been easily resolved. Dominic, I'm sure, has got a thoroughbred that would chase it down.
Yeah.
But it's and it's all over pretty quickly. It doesn't go on and on.
Yeah, it is, which is good because they sort of bring Preminger back and throw him on the table. Midas loses his tooth finally in a battle against Serafina. And yeah, just everyone gets their sort of comeuppance quite quickly. I can't really remember what happens to Preminger. Is he just sort of thrown in jail?
Well, it's kind of forgotten about, right? Because they tie up everybody else's story instead.
Hmm.
Um, the thing that bugged me most of all, and I don't know if we're at that point yet, but he's still got all the gold. All
Yeah. He's
the
there's
the
no sort
what?
of reveal of like, here's all the gold, return it to the people, fund the NHS, like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
$350 a day. He because yeah, Annalise showing she may know about science, she doesn't know about economics. Decides to refactor the whole economy on effectively shiny, glassy rocks, geodes, which
Yes.
aren't worth anything. But all the gold is still there. So they basically
Mm.
leave the gold standard in what's obviously a critical examination of FDR's decision post-war to not base the dollar on the gold standard. No, I don't know. but base it on shiny purple rocks that aren't even amethyst. They're
Which
just weird.
shiny purple rocks, yeah.
So I don't quite know where that came from, unless they've got special powers or something.
Mm.
But what was bugging me was there is a mine full of gold, which clearly would have run out fairly soon anyway if Nick and Knack have managed to
Mm.
get rid of it. But nothing ever comes of it. Preminger, I don't remember seeing Preminger. He gets arrested,
Mm.
but I don't remember. There's nothing dark like it's being turned into a cuckoo clock
No.
or anything like that. It's
No, there's
far
no
more
sort of.
the movie said crap. We've got 15 minutes left. Um, we've got to give all these people, these characters we've introduced, some happy endings, except for Mrs. Carp. We're going to shut her
Yeah,
down.
Madame Carp goes out of business because the royal family no longer want her business because of the way she was treating her seamstresses. Which, like, look around your kingdom, Annalise. Like, this is how everything's run. It's not
Mm.
just Madame Carp. Um, but yeah, everyone has to get their happy ending. So Annalise and Julian are like together, and she's like, Mother, I'm going to marry Julian, and everything's gonna be run on purple crystal from now on. In a fucking fantastic twist, in my opinion. Again, like, I wasn't ready for Frozen. I wasn't ready for this. They kept teasing me with it, and I was like, it won't happen. Let's be honest. Look at where we are. Erika goes on tour as a singer for an entire year. She does the whole world. And I was like, fuck yes. And then, and only then, can she be like, you know what? I'm going to check in how Dominic's doing. And it's been a year because she's done the whole world, possibly even more than a year. And they have a double wedding, which indicates that Julian and Annalise, like, didn't immediately get married as well, because they took the time to wait to have a lovely gentlemen prefer blondes type double wedding, where they're, like, basically wearing the same dress but in their colour codes. And it's really gorgeous.
Both kingdoms marry commoners into the fold in a very, you know, took the British monarchy until a couple of years ago to really do that. First time someone tried, he had to abdicate. Now we get a twofer here. I do hope the press of the unnamed feudal country are a bit nicer to commoners than our British press, but
they're not digging up dirt on Erika's past and having interviews with her family and that sort of thing. But who's to say? And we see the Kelly Shelley character here for pretty much the first time, because she's been quite notably absent from the tale, which had been quite nice, dare I say it, to not have a forced child character.
Then the two of them, they're like on Laudanum or something, aren't they? They've got this weird, creepy,
they're just persistently
sleepwalky, smiley face as they go through. They're like, I'd love to see Barbie does Village of the Damned. That's what it would be like.
Or the Children of the Corn.
Oh my gosh! But that is the only sop to that. You know, and if you remember in the you obviously do remember, it wasn't that long ago, but you know, they've been a key part to the narrative structure. They've been a key part to the stories. You know, these creepy little Kelly Shelley children, and they're there just to remind us we're still in a Barbie universe, but
they're not massively there, which had been so nice, because we'd got to focus on all these other adult characters.
Blink and you miss it.
Take time out. To be like, I have child problems. Shut up, Kelly. No one cares.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I cried. I cried at the end of this movie. I thought it was great. I was really happy. The music was beautiful, and I cried at the wedding.
I didn't cry.
All right.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it, and I hate musicals, right? But I did not find this was a musical where the musical was at odds with the storytelling. Sometimes in musicals I struggle with it because I can't understand what they're singing, and therefore I feel like I'm missing a lot of the plot or a lot of the exposition. Or some musicals I really love 2 songs and hate the rest, and therefore only like The King and I. That's a musical where there's a couple of songs in that I really love. The rest of it I don't give a monkey's about. And actually, and South Pacific's another one. Yeah. Oh yeah, I could listen to Happy Talk and I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair all day. The rest of it can't remember. And it goes on for nearly 3 hours. So I'm glad it wasn't one of those musicals. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just snippets of songs really. And I thought the first one was quite spectacularly done, where we're seeing both their lives together. You know, yes, of course I'm ripping it for various things, but I'd rip every film for some of these things. I genuinely think, though, there's some brilliant bits of foreshadowing and just little things in the script that pay off later. It feels like there's been revisions of this script. It feels like they've thought about it.
Definitely.
I do think the animation isn't quite as good as it has been. I think
in places, I agree.
Yeah,
possibly because they're stretching it across a longer runtime.
But I don't think the animals, especially Midas, I think really suffers visually. when it's talking and stuff like that, it's just the mouth
Mm-hmm.
isn't quite right, and they can't do the curly hair.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not quite right. I think Serafina's face is a bit flat. I think there's just some. But on the other hand, there's that beautiful painted artwork at the beginning where
Yeah.
they're in exposition mode. Um, and I thought Swan Lake was going to be as good as it got. Yeah, I
Mm.
thought Swan Lake had it sort of had a story sort of based on the source material, went some other places with it, had some great performances, um, had some stuff to take the piss out of, could sell a few toys.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure this one's as successful at toy selling as some of the others.
Mate,
Um,
I want an Annalise, I want an Erika, I want a Julian, I want a Dominic, I want a Queen, I want a Preminger, I want the cats, I want the dog, I want the kingdom, I want the
I think
village, I want like
I
all of
think
the dresses.
you want the board
Like,
game, the Game Boy
oh
Advance
my
game, the
god, the
whole
Game Boy
thing.
game. Like, I really love it, and I can see why this one is so beloved by people.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
and I
Preminger's
think
the
it's
best villain.
brilliant. Definitely.
I think
And like
Gothel has
Kelsey
that.
Grammer did such a good
Oh,
job
indeed, and
in Swan
and
Lake.
Angelica Houston's Gothel was a kind
Oh
of
god,
interesting layered
so
background.
great.
Tim Rice, you'd pay, we've been really
Tim Curry.
lucky. Tim Rice is a completely different person. Yeah, Tim Rice wrote a
Tim
musical
Rice wrote the lyrics to The
within the
Lion
musical. he wrote another musical about cricket.
King.
But no, I think
Yeah.
Preminger is we're taking the mick out of his plans, but his plan's
But
better
but
than
he has
Gothel's.
solid
His
plans.
plan is a lot better than Gothel's. Yeah,
Yeah.
which we didn't really grasp. His plan is a lot better than Kelsey Grammer's character, which again
Mm.
didn't really understand what he was trying
Didn't
to
really
do here.
get. Yeah, it's
Um,
clear motivations, clear development, good love stories, great comic side characters in the animals. Just so, so solid. And as the credits started to roll, I thought, what a brilliant movie that was. I can really see where the love comes from. And I was about to turn it off and
mm,
just give it 5 out of 5. And then it gave me bloopers.
yeah, there's one of the Shrek. Did the Shrek
Animated.
films do this? Is it the Shrek films that do this?
Oh, please. Pixar started it with A Bug's Life.
That's right. That's right.
And they
So,
did
so
it for a few. Toy Story 2. And then they stopped after a while.
yeah. I mean,
And, and oh, I thought I'd never see them again. I thought we'd reached the end of animated bloopers because there's no such thing as an animated blooper. You have to animate the bloopers
there
and
are.
voice them.
I mean,
And
in CGI where you can have something that renders incorrectly, but actually these are like more like
these are like the cast have
yeah,
outtakes.
and they're
Oh my
brilliant.
god.
And they're brilliant. These are brilliant. Like
Oh
when
my
when
god.
when Wolfie falls in the bath.
And like, because at first I didn't know what was going on because they had this like stunt cat and they were practicing the French horse yeeting Serafina onto the thing, and they like keep fucking it up, and Serafina's like, can somebody get my agent on the phone please? And I was like, that's amazing. I'd have been happy with that. And then we got another one of Wolfie falling in the bath during the cat's meow, and I was like, oh my god, yes. We kept cutting to Preminger talking to himself in the mirror, which like they didn't go too far with it. They didn't make it too obvious. I was really worried about that one, but it was just consistent and strong. Oh my god, the final one where in the middle of the like how to be a princess song, Julian starts like break dancing or whatever. It was just inspired. I was like, how? I don't deserve this. Like, thank you, Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper. You've gone above and beyond. You've gone 110%. I was perfectly satisfied. And now you're giving me this. This is amazing. Where are your awards? Where's your Oscar? Like, come on. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How wonderful. A joy to behold. And then we got a fucking credits song that was beautiful and amazing and original and sung by Sarah Nimitz. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry, but like it was so good. It's called I'm on My Way, and I did listen to it a couple times. Oh, this movie, man.
It's it was a real surprise
Mm.
because I was, I'd done my reading up before it, about how it was really popular, and it's got a fandom all of its own. Um, and I thought that was reserved for 12 Dancing Princesses,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe is also. I haven't seen. I know you obviously.
I've
You,
seen
you,
that one, yeah.
you've not only seen it, you've podcasted about it. It's going to be an interesting show for us.
Mm.
Where you're going to have to revisit it. But I wasn't aware that this was one, because this was not one. So my kids, by this time, 2000 and.
4.
Not surprised my kids aren't. We didn't have this one, so I had never seen this one before. Probably because it's a
Mm-hmm.
musical. I'd probably stopped them having it because I'm that kind of killjoy dad. If it admits it's a feature-length musical, out of my fucking house. Go. No, it's. I don't know, but it was absolute joy. And I honestly thought last week or last episode when I said, "Oh, Swan Lake's the best," I thought that was going to be it. I don't think anything was going to top Swan Lake.
Yeah.
Well, well done, new director.
Yeah. Coming
What's your name?
strong.
Yeah, I don't know if he does any more, but yes, William Lau. I think he does several more actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think the animation's as good, but the story, the writing, you're right. There's the whole the aspects of feminism in here. The Bechdel test
Mm-hmm.
it passes, the jokes land. Yeah, I might not agree with the dog that talks like a gangster, but it
I
is
love it.
fucking funny. It is funny, yeah. And again, if I was an 8-year-old girl, I'd think this is the best thing ever.
Ugh.
So yeah, let's talk leaderboards.
Oh my god. I mean, it goes straight to number 1. And I'm going to say it. I think it's going to stay there. I honestly do. I cannot see how they're ever going to top it in terms of storytelling, character, songs, costumes, outfits, how much I want the doll. Like, they can't top it. Surely we've peaked, which feels like a quite upsetting thing to say, seeing as we have about 37 more movies to get through. But I just cannot, with just looking at the titles, I can't see how Mermaidia would make me as happy as a literary adaptation with 2 female main characters. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mermaidia will be my new favourite, but now.
And also we do know that this was so successful that they remake it later on, at least once. With Barbie, the pop star and the princess, isn't it? Where they sort of modernise it
Princess
a
and
bit.
the pop star,
That's
yeah.
it. So yeah, but yeah, number 1 with a bullet for me. And like you, I can't see how this is going to be topped.
Yeah.
But let's be fair. These first 4 movies, Nutcracker, Rapunzel, Swan Lake, Princess and the Pauper, they've been way better than either of us really expected, right?
So much better. I really thought that, especially when starting out, you could have made these an easy cash grab and you didn't have to care. But somebody did care, and a lot of care went in. Now, whether that theory will remain and the care will remain is to be seen. I know we've got 12 Dancing Princesses coming up, which I'm excited for you to see because I've already seen it. But before then, we've got a few off-the-wall ones. We had no unicorns or fairies or mermaids in this story, and we've got all of those things coming up. We've got Fairytopia, Magic of Pegasus, Mermaidia, that sort of thing on the horizon. So it'll be interesting to go back to that sort of magic, which I didn't miss because it was so solid a movie that I didn't need glittery fairies to get me through it. So Barbie is the Princess and the Pauper is at number 1, with Barbie of Swan Lake coming in at number 2, and Barbie is Rapunzel at number 3. Let's see if Barbie Fairytopia is gonna work its way into the top 3, if it's gonna override the solid trilogy and the standalone success of the Princess and the Pauper. I'm excited. I know I said I keep saying that I'm excited, but I just am excited. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because I'm just constantly excited. I was so excited to watch The Princess and the Pauper.
I'm just a little concerned. There's going to be a point where we're going to disagree. I think so far we've been fairly in sync.
Mm-hmm.
You know, each one has improved over the next.
Yeah.
So, you know, and not necessarily significantly, but there's certainly been a step change. There's going to be a point where we're going to fight over one of these things. I don't know what we're going to do then, but yes, at the moment it's easy. We just keep putting a new one on the top. It's like a game of Jenga, and a very safe game at that.
Yeah. So, exciting stuff to come. Tell us your thoughts if you're listening. Send them in to the Why This Film podcast at gmail.com. Comment on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Get involved. Get in the conversation.
Anchor voicemail. Be part of the show.
Ooh, yeah. Whatever that is. Tell. What's that?
Oh, so if you listen to the show on Anchor, which you might be because that's our platform, you can on the website you can leave a voicemail, and we can use that and we can put it in the show.
Yes, do it.
Come, be part of our podcast nation.
Yeah. Give us your opinions. Give us your thoughts. Send me your pictures if you've cosplayed or if you've got the dolls. Maybe not if they're like covered in biro with their hair cut off. But they don't have to be perfect. I just want to see them.
But yes, please. And tell us what your favourite Barbie film is.
Yes.
Especially if you're disagreeing with us. I think I'd like to see some different opinions.
For sure.
So that was a good chat, Emily. Where else can people get in touch with us?
Well, In A Barbie World is obviously found on the Why This Film platform, which is across all podcasting platforms.
Double platform, always good. And are we on Facebook?
We are on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast.
Are we on Instagram?
We're on Instagram at Why This Film Podcast.
And how about the Twitter?
We are on the Twitter at Why This Film Pod.
Any other way they can support the show?
Yeah, if you'd like to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/Why This Film Podcast and support us from as little as £3 a month.
Woohoo! And if you're really old-fashioned like me, you can get your Barbie opinions over to us on email at whythisfilmpodcast@gmail.com.